All right, bonus episode. This is the flyout, and we'll do this on weeks where there's just so much stuff that we have to get into. A few things before we get out of here, and I'm joined by one of the producers from New Dems, Emma Weir.
Happy to be here.
All right, so let's get into it. We're going to cover what?
We've got three big things to cover today.
Okay.
Hegseth is set to fire 100 of his top generals.
Okay.
More scandals coming out of the Pentagon, and Republicans are refusing to investigate any of it.
Right.
Republicans can't seem to land the plane on their budget, and Democrats are forcing a discharge petition to protect Medicaid and food assistance cuts that Republicans are trying to do. And then we'll also talk about some of the craziest things you heard this week.
All right, so let me just start with Hegseth. The Hegseth thing is a big deal because I'm frustrated that no one's really picking this up. He's firing 100 top generals at a time when they are spread way too thin. All kinds of terrible things are going on around the world. They've got one person in Marco Rubio doing two major jobs: Secretary of State, National Security Advisor. You got Steve Witkoff, who's negotiating, trying to deal with the Israelis and Hamas, the Iranians, Ukrainians, Russia, and now probably India, Pakistan. And then they're going to fire 100 generals, and Republicans aren't saying anything, and they should be doing hearings. The other issue is that in Project 2025, there was this concern that it would get so bad that at the Defense Department, they would get rid of all the generals and replace them with loyalists. And so then the president, if he wanted to do something crazy like invade Greenland, he could, and nobody would stop him. I don't know how that isn't a front page story, a big headline, and certainly why congressional Republicans aren't holding hearings. So,
all right, on Capitol Hill, Republicans are divided. It's the moderates versus the fiscal hawks versus Speaker Johnson, trying to figure out how to pass their...
Versus the Senate,
yeah. Figuring out how to pass Trump's big, beautiful budget bill. Can you talk a little bit about the divisions and what's really going on here? How are they going to pay for it? What are they doing?
They canceled a lot of the committees this week, so Democrats were sort of sitting there like, what are we doing? Because Republicans aren't interested in working with us or having these behind-the-scenes meetings, and the meetings are not going well. We get report outs that there's a lot of infighting within the Republican conference in the House. The House and the Senate are not on the same page, nor is anyone on the same page with the president. I mean, they literally do not have the votes for this budget. They're not even close, because on one hand, you have about 40 members of the deficit hawk crew who say, you have to cut as much spending as we agreed to. So nearly $1 trillion in healthcare cuts, cuts to food assistance. It's across they tried to sell some federal land this week in one of the committees to generate more revenue for their tax cuts for the super wealthy. And the speaker saying, I want to do this, and the majority leader in the House or Senate is saying, I'm going to do this other thing. You got moderates who are saying, we're not going to cut Medicaid, or we're not going to cut it that much. No one has agreed to anything. And I think what's going to happen, based on what we learned today, is that they're going to force votes in committee next week and hope they can get this onto the floor and enough pressure from President Trump to get it passed. But as of now, they don't have the votes.
And which committee do you serve on?
I'm on Energy and Commerce, and so next week we will be in committee if they really do go through with this. And we'll keep them in there as long as possible procedurally, which could be the better part of 2 days, including overnight, offering amendment after amendment after amendment to make it so difficult for them to touch Medicaid that they walk away from it completely.
And as you said, Republicans are trying to cut Medicaid. They're also trying to cut programs like SNAP that help families put food on the table in order to pay for tax cuts for billionaires like Elon Musk. How are Democrats fighting back against this?
So the third big thing this week before we get out of here is that we submitted a discharge petition. A discharge petition is a way to go around the speaker. and the folks in charge and say, look, there are a majority of us that want to vote on this bill. And so our discharge petition is a bill to protect Medicare, health care, and food assistance. And we have over 200 signatures already after a day or two. And so, by Tuesday, we'll have 213, 14. And all we need is 4 or 5. This is the moment, right? This is all we need is 4 or 5 Republicans to go over and sign it. And it's in the well, which means where we go and vote. It's where the president gives his speech during the State of the Union, that little area down there. It literally sits there. You walk up. They say, oh, Mr. Landsman, would you like to sign the discharge petition? I said, absolutely. I would like to sign the discharge petition. You sign it, and that's it. Once it hits 218, the speaker, by rule, has to give us a vote.
Those are the 3 big things for the week, but I've got one more question for you. What's the craziest thing you heard on the Hill this week?
So the craziest thing I heard this week was after votes yesterday, we went right into 1 minute. And the first speaker, a Republican, said,
we eliminate all the fraud, waste, and abuse, and there's plenty of it, we're left with at least a 25% increase in Medicaid over the past 10 years, over the next 10 years.
Which is bananas. All right, I got to go. I got to catch my flight, but thanks for doing this, Emma.
Thank you for having me.